harm, if you had a problem, he would think about it. And that's the great thing that I always think about, is that he was always somebody you could go to, and he would always listen. So it's a great loss. I think the way I would put it is that we've lost almost the grandfather of the nation. And I feel very sorry and supportive of my mother, who's feeling it, I think, probably more than everybody else.
Prince Andrew's life just imploded in the most dramatic royal meltdown ever captured on camera. Palace insiders are calling it the most devastating scandal in 1,000 years of royal history. You won't believe what DNA evidence just revealed about the Duke of York that has left the entire royal family in absolute chaos.
As having left a huge void in her life. But we, the family, the ones that are closer, are rallying round to make sure that we're there to support her.
The announcement came through official channels on a Friday evening in October 2025. Prince Andrew had decided to relinquish his royal titles, including the Duke of York designation, after discussions with King Charles III and other family members. The statement from Buckingham Palace was brief but significant, marking another chapter in what has been a prolonged period of controversy surrounding the Queen's second son. Andrew, now 65 years old, announced that he would no longer use his title or the honors that had been given to him throughout his life. In his statement, he explained that the decision came after concluding that ongoing accusations were creating unwanted distractions for the monarchy and the work of King Charles. The Duke emphasized that he had always prioritized his duty to family and country, referencing his earlier decision to step back from public life in 2019. This latest development represents the final step in what has been a gradual withdrawal from royal duties. Andrew had already stepped back from public duties in 2019 following a controversial BBC interview, and lost his military affiliations and royal patronages in 2022. The process has been steady but relentless, with each stage marking a further distancing from the central work of the monarchy. The backdrop to these developments involves multiple ongoing issues that have continued to generate public and media attention. Recent revelations about Andrew's relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein have resurfaced, including the publication of excerpts from a posthumous memoir by Virginia Giuffre, who died by suicide in April 2025. Giuffre had been one of Epstein's most prominent accusers and had filed a civil lawsuit against Andrew in 2021, which was settled without admission of wrongdoing. The Epstein connection has been a persistent source of difficulty for Andrew and the royal family. The relationship between Andrew and Epstein spanned more than a decade, ending in 2011, when Epstein reportedly threatened legal action against Andrew's former wife. Throughout this period, questions have continued to surface about the extent and nature of their friendship, despite Andrew's repeated denials of any wrongdoing. Adding to the complexity of Andrew's situation have been other controversies, including recent scrutiny over his connections to individuals with alleged ties to foreign intelligence services. Court documents revealed details about Andrew's relationship with Yang Tengbo, who reportedly developed close ties with the prince and was authorized to act on his behalf during business meetings with potential Chinese investors. These revelations have raised additional questions about judgment and associations. The media response to Andrew's announcement has been mixed, with some outlets viewing it as an overdue acknowledgement of reality, while others have questioned why such a step was not taken earlier. Royal commentators have noted that perhaps the question is not why this happened now, but why it had not happened sooner, given the years of accumulated controversy. The timing of the announcement has also drawn attention from political figures and members of Parliament. Scottish National Party lawmaker Stephen Flynn suggested that the government should consider using legislation to formally remove titles, not just from Andrew, but from others who have faced similar scrutiny. This reflects a broader conversation about accountability and the mechanisms available for addressing situations where royal titles become sources of ongoing controversy. For the monarchy as an institution, Andrew's decision represents both a resolution and a challenge. On one hand, it removes a persistent source of negative attention that has overshadowed other royal activities. On the other hand, It highlights questions about how such situations should be handled and what standards should apply to members of the royal family. The financial implications of Andrew's situation have also been significant. Reporting from late 2024 indicated that King Charles had ended Andrew's annual allowance of approximately $1.3 million, shifting ongoing costs away from the monarch's resources. Additionally, the costs of private security, which can run into 7 figures annually, have reportedly been Andrew's responsibility since losing public funding for protection. The reaction from the public has been complex, reflecting broader attitudes toward the monarchy and questions of accountability. Some have expressed support for what they see as appropriate consequences for poor judgment, while others have questioned whether the response has been proportionate or whether it sets concerning precedents for how family matters are handled in the public eye. The announcement also affects other family members, including Andrew's former wife, Sarah Ferguson, who will no longer use the title Duchess of York. This change extends the impact of Andrew's decision beyond his own situation, affecting others who have been connected to his titles and status. Looking at the broader context, Andrew's situation reflects ongoing challenges facing modern monarchies in balancing traditional roles with contemporary expectations of accountability and transparency. The royal family has faced multiple periods of scrutiny and controversy over the decades, but each situation presents unique challenges in terms of how to respond while preserving institutional stability. The precedent set by Andrew's announcement may influence how similar situations are handled in the future. It establishes that even long-held titles and positions within the royal family are not immune from consequences when ongoing controversies create significant challenges for the institution as a whole. The historical context is also worth considering. The British monarchy has navigated numerous scandals and controversies throughout its long history, adapting and evolving in response to changing circumstances and public expectations. Andrew's situation represents another test of the institution's ability to address internal challenges while maintaining its broader role and responsibilities. As this latest chapter unfolds, attention will likely focus on what happens next, both for Andrew personally and for the royal family as a whole. The decision to relinquish titles represents a significant step, but it may not be the final word on how these complex issues are resolved. The media coverage of these events has itself become part of the story, with questions about how royal news is reported and what standards should apply to coverage of family matters that intersect with public duties and responsibilities. The balance between legitimate public interest and privacy concerns remains an ongoing challenge in royal reporting. The international dimension of these events should not be overlooked either. The British royal family attracts global attention, and developments involving senior members of the family are closely watched by observers around the world. Andrew's situation has generated commentary and analysis far beyond the United Kingdom, reflecting the international profile of the monarchy. The announcement marks what may be the end of one chapter, but it also raises questions about what comes next. How the royal family moves forward from this point, and what lessons are learned from these experiences, will likely influence how similar challenges are addressed in the future. For now, the immediate focus remains on the practical implications of Andrew's decision and what it means for the day-to-day operations of the monarchy. The removal of a senior royal from active duties inevitably creates changes in how responsibilities are distributed and how public engagements are managed. The long-term implications of these events may take years to fully understand, but they represent a significant moment in the modern history of the British royal family and its ongoing evolution in response to contemporary challenges and expectations. The relationship between Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein began in the late 1990s through an introduction by Ghislaine Maxwell, a British socialite who was dating Epstein at the time. Maxwell, daughter of media mogul Robert Maxwell, had met Andrew while at university and would later become central to both the friendship and the subsequent scandal that would engulf the Duke of York. According to various accounts, their first meeting occurred around 1999, though there have been conflicting reports about the exact timing. What is certain is that this introduction would set in motion a friendship that would span more than a decade and ultimately contribute to the downfall of the Queen's second son. The early years of the friendship appeared relatively innocuous to outside observers. Epstein was a wealthy financier with connections to powerful people around the world, and Andrew was a working member of the royal family with interests in business and trade. The relationship seemed to follow a familiar pattern of wealthy individuals cultivating connections with members of the royal family, a practice that has long been part of royal circles. However, beneath the surface, questions about Epstein's business practices and personal conduct were already beginning to emerge. By the mid-2000s, allegations about his treatment of young women had started to surface, though these would not become widely known until much later. During this period, Andrew reportedly maintained regular contact with Epstein, visiting his various properties and attending social events where Epstein was present. The first major crisis point in their friendship came in 2008, when Epstein was formally convicted in Florida on charges of procuring a minor for prostitution. He served a 13-month jail sentence as part of what many observers later described as an unusually lenient plea deal. This conviction should have marked the end of any respectable person's association with Epstein, but Andrew's response was more complicated. Reports suggest that Andrew initially distanced himself from Epstein following the 2008 conviction, but this separation was not permanent. In 2010, photographs emerged showing Andrew walking with Epstein in New York Central Park, clearly demonstrating that contact had resumed despite Epstein's status as a registered sex offender. These images would later become some of the most damaging evidence of Andrew's poor judgment in maintaining the friendship. Andrew later claimed that this 2010 meeting was specifically arranged to end their friendship once and for all. In his controversial 2019 BBC interview, he insisted that he traveled to New York with the sole purpose of telling Epstein that their relationship could not continue given Epstein's conviction. However, this explanation raised more questions than it answered, particularly given that Andrew stayed at Epstein's Manhattan mansion for several days, rather than simply delivering a brief message. The situation became significantly more complicated in 2015, when Virginia Giuffre first publicly named Andrew in court documents related to challenging Epstein's original plea deal. Giuffre alleged that she had been trafficked by Epstein and forced to have sexual encounters with Andrew on 3 separate occasions when she was 17 years old. These allegations marked the beginning of a crisis that would eventually consume Andrew's royal career. Buckingham Palace immediately issued strong denials, stating that any suggestion of impropriety with underage minors was categorically untrue. The palace emphasized that Andrew was not a party to the legal proceedings and dismissed the claims as being made without foundation. However, the mere existence of such serious allegations in court documents ensured that the story would not disappear quietly. The allegations became more detailed and public in 2016, when additional court documents were unsealed as part of a defamation lawsuit brought by Giuffre against Maxwell. These documents included Giuffre's sworn testimony, in which she provided graphic details about alleged encounters with Andrew. She claimed that Epstein had paid her significant sums of money after these encounters, and described specific incidents at various locations, including Maxwell's London townhouse. Throughout this period, Andrew's representatives attempted to discredit Giuffre's claims, with some suggesting that her memories were false or that she had been coached to make these allegations. However, the consistency of her accounts and the supporting evidence that emerged over time made these counter-arguments increasingly difficult to sustain. The photograph that showed Andrew with his arm around Giuffre, with Maxwell visible in the background, became a particularly powerful piece of evidence. This image, allegedly taken at Maxwell's London home in March 2001, directly contradicted Andrew's later claims that he had never met Giuffre. While Andrew's supporters suggested the photograph might be fake or digitally manipulated, no credible evidence of such manipulation was ever produced. Additional complications arose from testimony by other individuals who had been part of Epstein's circle. Juan Alessi, Epstein's former housekeeper, testified that Andrew had received daily massages during visits to Epstein's Florida residence, raising further questions about the nature of the activities that occurred at Epstein's properties. Another woman, Johanna Sjoberg, provided testimony alleging that Andrew had inappropriately touched her during a visit to Epstein's New York mansion. The situation reached a critical point in July 2019, when Epstein was arrested for a second time, this time on federal charges of sex trafficking minors. The arrest brought renewed attention to all of Epstein's associates, including Andrew. Unlike other prominent figures who quickly distanced themselves from Epstein following his arrest, Andrew remained silent for several weeks, a decision that would later be seen as a significant strategic error. When Buckingham Palace finally issued statements about the relationship, they acknowledged that Andrew had been in error to maintain contact with Epstein after his 2008 conviction. However, these statements fell short of the comprehensive accounting that many observers felt was necessary, given the seriousness of the allegations. The discovery of additional evidence continued to complicate Andrew's position. In October 2025, British newspapers revealed details of an email that Andrew had sent to Epstein in February 2011, more than 2 months after Andrew claimed he had ended all contact with his former friend. The email, sent the day after renewed media coverage of their relationship, reportedly included the phrase that they were in this together and would have to rise above the negative attention. This revelation was particularly damaging because it directly contradicted Andrew's account of when and how he had ended his friendship with Epstein. In his 2019 BBC interview, Andrew had been categorical in stating that the December 2010 meeting in New York marked the final contact between them. The discovery of the February 2011 email proved this claim to be false, raising serious questions about what other aspects of Andrew's account might be inaccurate. Recent developments have included the release of additional documents from Epstein's estate, which show Andrew listed as a passenger on one of Epstein's private jets in May 2000. The documents also include references to someone named Andrew in connection with massage and exercise services, though the heavily redacted nature of these documents makes it difficult to draw definitive conclusions about their significance. The posthumous publication of Virginia Giuffre's memoir in October 2025 has added new dimensions to the story. The book, titled Nobody's Girl, provides Giuffre's detailed account of her alleged experiences with Epstein's trafficking network, including specific claims about her encounters with Andrew. While the book does not present entirely new allegations, it provides a more complete and personal perspective on events that had previously been known only through court documents and media reports. In the memoir, Giuffre describes how Maxwell allegedly told her she would meet a handsome prince, like Cinderella, before her first alleged encounter with Andrew. She claims that Andrew correctly guessed her age as 17 when they first met, noting that she was slightly older than his daughters. These details, while impossible to verify independently, add emotional weight to allegations that had previously been presented in more clinical legal language. The memoir also includes claims about Andrew's legal team's response to Giuffre's allegations, including allegations that they attempted to hire internet trolls to harass her during the legal proceedings. Additionally, Giuffre describes efforts by Andrew to avoid being served legal papers, including what she characterizes as hiding behind the gates of Balmoral Castle in Scotland. The cumulative effect of these revelations has been to create a picture of a relationship that was far more extensive and problematic than Andrew initially acknowledged. What began as denials of even knowing Giuffre evolved into acknowledgments of poor judgment in maintaining contact with Epstein after his conviction. The discovery of continuing contact after claimed cutoff dates further undermined Andrew's credibility. The investigation into Andrew's relationship with Epstein has also revealed the challenges faced by law enforcement and legal systems when dealing with powerful individuals. Despite requests for cooperation from American authorities, Andrew has provided what prosecutors described as zero cooperation with FBI investigations into Epstein's trafficking network. This lack of cooperation has frustrated investigators and contributed to ongoing questions about what Andrew might know about Epstein's activities. The financial aspects of the case have also come under scrutiny. Andrew reached an out-of-court settlement with Giuffre in February 2022 for an undisclosed sum, with reports suggesting the amount was substantial, possibly exceeding $12 million. While Andrew did not admit wrongdoing as part of the settlement, he did acknowledge Giuffre's suffering as a victim of sex trafficking and agreed to make a donation to her charity. The settlement, while resolving the immediate legal threat, did not end public interest in the case. If anything, it intensified speculation about what Andrew might have been trying to avoid by agreeing to pay such a significant sum without requiring Giuffre to provide proof of her allegations in court. The investigation has also revealed the extent to which Andrew's situation has become a burden for the royal family as an institution. The ongoing controversy has overshadowed other royal activities and created difficulties for family members who have tried to maintain distance from the scandal while still supporting Andrew as a family member. The evidence that has emerged over the years paints a picture of a relationship that demonstrated remarkably poor judgment on Andrew's part, at minimum. Whether the allegations go beyond poor judgment to actual criminal conduct remains a matter of dispute, but the cumulative weight of evidence has made it impossible for Andrew to continue in any official royal capacity. The investigation continues to evolve, with new documents and testimonies periodically emerging that add additional context to the relationship between Andrew and Epstein. Each new revelation has contributed to a growing understanding of how this association developed and why it proved so damaging to both Andrew personally and the royal institution he represented. The decision to sit down for a television interview would prove to be one of the most catastrophic public relations moves in modern royal history. In November 2019, facing mounting pressure over his association with Jeffrey Epstein, Prince Andrew agreed to be interviewed by BBC Newsnight presenter Emily Maitlis. What was intended as an opportunity to clear his name instead became the moment that sealed his fate as a working member of the royal family. The interview took place at Buckingham Palace on November 14, 2019, and was broadcast 2 days later on November 16th. The setting itself was significant, with the BBC being granted unprecedented access to film within the palace walls. This was not a casual conversation, but a formal sit-down interview that would last nearly an hour and cover some of the most serious allegations ever leveled against a senior member of the royal family. According to those involved in the production, the interview had been months in the making. BBC Newsnight had been pursuing the story for years, with producer Sam McAllister playing a crucial role in finally securing access to Andrew. The negotiations were complex and involved multiple meetings with palace officials, including Andrew's private secretary and other advisors who were reportedly divided about whether the interview should take place at all. Emily Maitlis, who would conduct the interview, later revealed that one of Andrew's official advisors resigned just before the interview took place, apparently in opposition to the decision. This internal disagreement within Andrew's team was perhaps an early warning sign of how the interview might be received. But Andrew himself appeared confident about the decision to proceed. The prince's motivation for agreeing to the interview appeared to be driven by a desire to definitively address the allegations that had been swirling around him for years. By 2019, the pressure had intensified significantly, following Epstein's arrest in July of that year and his subsequent death by suicide in August. Andrew had remained largely silent about the allegations, but the sustained media attention and growing calls for him to address the situation publicly had made some form of response almost inevitable. What made the decision particularly risky was the nature of the allegations he would be addressing. Virginia Giuffre had accused him of sexual assault when she was 17 years old, claiming that she had been trafficked to him by Epstein. These were not political missteps or minor controversies, but serious criminal allegations that could potentially result in legal consequences. During the interview, Maitlis systematically worked through the various aspects of Andrew's relationship with Epstein and the specific allegations made by Giuffre. Andrew's responses would become the subject of intense scrutiny and widespread criticism. He maintained that he had no recollection of ever meeting Giuffre, despite the existence of a photograph showing them together with Ghislaine Maxwell. One of the most memorable moments came when Andrew was asked about Giuffre's claim that he had been sweating when they danced together at a London nightclub. Andrew responded by claiming that he could not sweat due to an overdose of adrenaline during his military service in the Falklands War. This explanation was met with widespread skepticism and became the subject of significant ridicule in the media and public discourse. Another significant moment involved Andrew's alibi for the evening when Giuffre alleged the assault took place. He claimed that he was at a Pizza Express restaurant in Woking with his daughter, Princess Beatrice, an oddly specific detail that many found implausible given the circumstances. The mention of Pizza Express in particular became a cultural touchstone and the subject of numerous jokes and satirical references. Perhaps most damaging was Andrew's response when asked whether he regretted his friendship with Epstein. Rather than expressing clear regret or sympathy for Epstein's victims, Andrew said that he did not regret the friendship because of the opportunities it had provided him to learn and meet people. This response demonstrated what many viewers interpreted as a fundamental lack of empathy for the victims of Epstein's crimes. Throughout the interview, Andrew appeared to many observers as defensive and entitled, failing to adequately acknowledge the severity of the allegations or show appropriate concern for those who had been harmed by Epstein. His manner was often described as lacking the gravity that the situation demanded, and he seemed more concerned with defending his own reputation than addressing the broader issues raised by his association with a convicted sex offender. The public reaction to the interview was swift and overwhelmingly negative. Media commentators described it as a car crash and compared it to a nuclear explosion in terms of its impact on Andrew's reputation. The interview was widely seen as having made Andrew's situation significantly worse rather than better, with many observers noting that his explanations raised more questions than they answered. The fallout was immediate and severe. Within days of the broadcast, major organizations and charities began distancing themselves from Andrew. Several of his patronages announced that they would be reviewing their relationships with him, and some moved quickly to end their associations entirely. The pressure from these organizations reflected the broader public sentiment that Andrew's explanations had been inadequate and unconvincing. The interview also had international repercussions, with media outlets around the world picking up the story and analyzing Andrew's performance. The global nature of the coverage meant that the damage to Andrew's reputation extended far beyond the United Kingdom, affecting the broader image of the British royal family on the international stage. Behind the scenes, the reaction within the royal family was reportedly one of shock and dismay. While Andrew himself was said to have been pleased with how the interview had gone, giving Maitlis and her team a tour of Buckingham Palace afterwards, other family members and palace officials quickly realized the magnitude of the crisis that had been created. The interview proved to be the catalyst for a series of decisions that would fundamentally alter Andrew's role within the royal family. Just 4 days after the broadcast, on November 20th, 2019, Buckingham Palace announced that Andrew would be stepping back from public duties for the foreseeable future. This unprecedented move marked the effective end of his career as a working royal. The statement announcing his withdrawal from public duties acknowledged that his association with Epstein had become a major disruption to the work of the royal family and the organizations he supported. It was a tacit admission that the interview had failed in its primary objective of clearing his name, and had instead created an untenable situation for the monarchy as an institution. The decision to step back was described as being made with the consent of Queen Elizabeth II, though reports suggested that the Queen had little choice given the circumstances. The situation represented one of the most serious crises of her reign, involving her second son, and threatening to overshadow the work of other family members. The practical implications of Andrew's withdrawal were significant. He immediately ceased all official appearances on behalf of the Queen and the organizations of which he was patron. This meant that other working royals had to take over his commitments, redistributing the workload among fewer people at a time when the royal family was already facing challenges due to the advanced age of some senior members. The financial implications were also substantial. Andrew had been receiving funding from the Queen through the Duchy of Lancaster to support his office and official activities, With his withdrawal from public duties, questions arose about how his lifestyle would be funded going forward, particularly given his expensive tastes and significant ongoing commitments, such as the lease on Royal Lodge, his residence on the Windsor estate. The interview also had legal ramifications. In January 2020, American prosecutors announced that Andrew had provided zero cooperation with their investigation into Epstein's activities, despite his promise during the interview that he would be willing to help authorities if required. This lack of cooperation further damaged his public standing and raised questions about whether he had something to hide. The situation continued to deteriorate over the following months and years. In January 2022, Andrew was stripped of his military titles and royal patronages by the Queen, and he stopped using the style of His Royal Highness in any official capacity. These moves represented a further downgrading of his status within the royal family and reflected the ongoing damage from the interview and its aftermath. The interview has since become a case study in how not to handle a crisis communication situation. It has been analyzed extensively by public relations experts, legal scholars, and royal commentators as an example of how good intentions can go dramatically wrong when proper preparation and realistic assessment of the situation are lacking. Emily Maitlis has since revealed additional details about the interview and its aftermath. She has noted that Andrew appeared to believe the interview had gone well, a perception that was not shared by virtually anyone else who watched it. This disconnect between Andrew's assessment and public reaction highlighted the extent to which he may have been insulated from realistic feedback about his position. More recently, Maitlis has stated her belief that Andrew lied to her during the interview, particularly about when he had last been in contact with Epstein. The discovery of the February 2011 email, sent months after Andrew claimed to have ended all contact with Epstein, has provided evidence supporting this assessment and further undermining the credibility of Andrew's account. The interview has also been the subject of dramatic recreation, with both Netflix and Amazon Prime producing films that examine how the interview came about and why it proved so damaging. These productions have helped to cement the interview's place in popular culture as a defining moment in the decline of Andrew's public standing. Looking back, the interview represents a turning point not just for Andrew personally, but for the royal family as an institution. It demonstrated the challenges facing the monarchy in an era of increased scrutiny and accountability, where traditional approaches to crisis management may no longer be sufficient to contain reputational damage. The truth that emerged from the interview was not the exoneration that Andrew had hoped for, but rather a confirmation in the minds of many viewers that his explanations were inadequate and his judgment had been seriously flawed. The interview revealed a man who appeared to prioritize his own reputation over acknowledgement of the harm caused by his association with a convicted sex offender. The long-term consequences of the interview continue to reverberate today. Andrew's recent decision to relinquish his remaining titles can be traced directly back to the crisis that began with that November 2019 broadcast. The interview stands as a reminder of how a single hour of television can fundamentally alter the trajectory of a public figure's life and career, particularly when that figure is a member of one of the world's most scrutinized families. In the months following Prince Andrew's disastrous interview and withdrawal from public duties, legal pressure continued to mount. The most significant development came in August 2021, when Virginia Giuffre filed a civil lawsuit against Andrew in the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York. The lawsuit was filed under New York's Child Victims Act, alleging that Andrew had sexually assaulted Giuffre on 3 occasions when she was 17 years old, after being trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein. The case was assigned to Senior District Judge Lewis Kaplan. Andrew's legal team initially tried to have the case dismissed, arguing that a 2009 settlement between Giuffre and Epstein protected him from legal action. This settlement had paid Giuffre $500,000 and included language releasing Epstein and potentially other individuals from future claims. On January 12, 2022, Judge Kaplan denied Andrew's motion to dismiss, finding that the 2009 settlement was too vague to specifically protect him. The judge noted that the term potential defendant was so expansive as to have almost no meaning. The ruling meant Andrew would face sworn deposition testimony and potential trial. However, just weeks later, on February 15, 2022, both parties announced they had reached an out-of-court settlement. Andrew agreed to make a substantial payment to Giuffre personally, with reports suggesting amounts between £3 and £12 million. He also agreed to make a donation to Giuffre's charity supporting victims' rights. The settlement statement acknowledged that Andrew regretted his association with Epstein and commended Giuffre's bravery, though he maintained his denial of wrongdoing. The settlement brought immediate consequences for Andrew's royal status. In January 2022, Queen Elizabeth II had already stripped him of his military titles and royal patronages, an unprecedented action against one of her own children. He also ceased using the style His Royal Highness in any official capacity. These changes had substantial practical implications. Without his official role, Andrew lost access to financial support that had previously funded his office and activities. King Charles later ended Andrew's annual allowance of approximately $1.3 million, forcing him to find alternative income sources. He also became responsible for funding his own security arrangements, potentially costing hundreds of thousands of pounds annually. The crisis demonstrated the challenges facing the monarchy in an era of increased accountability. Traditional approaches to managing royal scandals proved inadequate when confronted with serious legal allegations and sustained media attention. The situation highlighted questions about royal financing and the appropriate use of such resources to settle misconduct allegations. King Charles faced difficult decisions about balancing family loyalty with institutional responsibility. The gradual distancing of Andrew from royal activities reflected recognition that his continued presence was damaging to the monarchy's reputation and effectiveness. The long-term consequences of the scandal continue to reverberate. Andrew has remained largely out of public view since the settlement, appearing only occasionally at private family events. His absence from major royal occasions has become a notable feature of royal ceremonies and celebrations, demonstrating the extent to which his role has been permanently altered. The scandal has also contributed to broader discussions about modernizing the monarchy and increasing its accountability to public opinion. Some commentators have argued that the crisis demonstrated the need for clearer protocols about how the royal family should respond to serious allegations against its members. Parliamentary pressure has also emerged, with some politicians calling for formal legislative action to strip Andrew of his remaining titles. The House of Commons has the constitutional power to remove individuals from the line of succession to the throne, though such action would require the consent of Commonwealth nations and would be an extraordinary step with significant constitutional implications. The recent publication of Virginia Giuffre's posthumous memoir in October 2025 has renewed attention to the case and put additional pressure on Andrew and the royal family. The memoir's detailed allegations and the continued emergence of new evidence, such as the 2011 email contradicting Andrew's timeline about his contact with Epstein, have made it difficult for the story to fade from public attention. Andrew's decision to relinquish his remaining titles in October 2025 represents the latest attempt to address the ongoing damage from the scandal. However, critics have argued that this voluntary relinquishment is insufficient and that more formal action is needed to hold him accountable. The case has become a defining example of how traditional institutions must adapt to contemporary expectations of accountability and transparency. The royal family's handling of the crisis has been scrutinized not just for its treatment of Andrew, but for what it reveals about the monarchy's approach to serious allegations against its members. The aftermath of the scandal continues to influence how the royal family operates and presents itself to the public. The emphasis on the working royals and their charitable activities has intensified, partly as a way of demonstrating the positive work the institution continues to do, despite the controversy surrounding Andrew. Looking forward, the scandal is likely to have lasting effects on how the monarchy approaches crisis management and accountability. The traditional approach of quiet withdrawal and hoping for public attention to move elsewhere, has proven inadequate in an era of sustained media scrutiny and legal accountability. The case also highlights broader questions about privilege, power, and accountability that extend beyond the royal family. The ability of wealthy and connected individuals to avoid criminal prosecution while settling civil cases has become a subject of public debate, with Andrew's case serving as a prominent example of how the justice system treats different individuals differently. For Virginia Giuffre, who died by suicide in April 2025, the settlement represented both vindication and continued struggle. Her family and supporters have continued to advocate for accountability and justice, viewing Andrew's gradual removal from public life as insufficient given the seriousness of the allegations. The institutional changes within the monarchy reflect a recognition that the old ways of handling scandal are no longer sufficient. The speed with which Andrew was stripped of his titles and removed from public duties represented an acknowledgement that the monarchy's survival depends on its ability to adapt to contemporary expectations of accountability and transparency.